Welcome to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? What if that unassuming quarter you used at a vending machine yesterday, or the one that slipped between your couch cushions, is actually one of the rarest and most valuable coins in US history? And what if I told you that the 1998 D quarter dollar, a coin most of us have seen thousands of times, has the potential to be worth an astonishing $250 million under the right circumstances? This isn't fantasy. It's reality for collectors and historians who know the secrets behind this particular piece of American currency. And today we're diving deep into the mysteries, the errors, the history, and the shocking stories that make the 1998 D quarter one of the most exciting coins you'll ever hear about. Now, before we unravel all of that, keep in mind that as incredible as this coin is, the journey doesn't stop here because we'll also be uncovering other coins in upcoming moments that are even stranger, rarer, and far more shocking than what you're about to hear. So stick with me until the very end because you don't want to miss what's next. The 1998 D quarter dollar may look ordinary, but it comes from a time when the US Mint was producing billions of coins each year, and tucked away in that sea of circulation were pieces that went wildly wrong. Denver, the mint responsible for the D mark, was cranking out quarters like a machine on overdrive, and in that frenzy, errors crept in. Errors so rare that the few surviving examples have sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world. Some 1998 D quarters exhibit double-die errors where the inscriptions on Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled, creating an instantly recognizable flaw that collectors hunt relentlessly. Others show off-center strikes where Washington's portrait is partially cut off, giving the coin a surreal and unmistakable look. And then there are the extreme rarities. Coins struck on the wrong planchet, where instead of a copper-nickel-clad composition, a quarter was mistakenly struck on a dime blank, creating a lighter, thinner coin that should never have existed. Each of these errors amplifies value. But when you pair them with the right condition, brilliant, uncirculated, sharp details, no scratches, you suddenly have a coin that transcends being money and becomes a multi-million-dollar treasure. But why $250 million, you might ask? How does such a high value even make sense for a quarter? The answer lies in the collector's psychology combined with history. When one or two coins are known to exist with a catastrophic minting error, their scarcity turns them into legends. Auction houses see fierce bidding wars where wealthy collectors throw caution to the wind just to say they own a unique piece of American minting history. 1998 D specimen rumored to exist with a full strike on a bronze planchet, something never intended for quarters of that era, is what experts believe could command this jaw-dropping figure. The rarity, the mistake, and the story all fuse into something priceless. Imagine finding one of these in your change, spending it unknowingly, and years later hearing that the very same type of coin sold at auction for the kind of money that could buy skyscrapers. It has happened before with other coins, so why not this one? The 1998 D quarter has become a legend not only because of its minting anomalies, but because of how it reflects American history in the late 90s. The Denver Mint was under pressure to meet the ever-growing demands of commerce, and under such intense production schedules, quality control inevitably slipped, leading to a handful of flawed masterpieces. In numismatics, flaws aren't flaws at all. They're golden tickets. Stories exist of collectors who bought rolls of quarters at their local bank in the late 90s and held them, only to later discover oddities that no one thought to check for. Some saw faint doubling, some saw misaligned dies, and those who recognized the significance were able to change their lives. The fascinating thing is that such coins could still be floating out there today in jars, drawers, or circulation, waiting for an eagle-eyed person like you to stumble across them. The thrill of the hunt is half the reason collectors stay engaged, but here's where things get truly electrifying. As valuable as this coin is, it's only the beginning of a string of coins we'll be uncovering. Coins from the early 90s, the 80s, even the late 60s, each with a story more bizarre and more jaw-dropping than the last. So while we soak in the mystique of the 1998 D quarter, remember this is just the opening act. But let's pull back into the details because you need to understand why collectors would pay astronomical sums for this quarter. Consider the mint mark itself. The D on the right of Washington's ponytail. Some examples from 1998 show repunched mint marks where the D appears doubled or distorted. This tiny detail, barely noticeable at first glance, sends values skyrocketing because it proves a mistake at the minting stage. Another variety includes the striking of the eagle on the reverse being off-center or misaligned with missing feathers, which transforms the coin from ordinary into museum-worthy. What's even more intriguing is the urban legend that a small batch of 1998 D quarters was struck on experimental alloy planchets during testing, coins that were supposed to be destroyed but somehow slipped into circulation. If these exist, they could explain the staggering estimates collectors whisper about. And auctions are where these legends either prove themselves or remain myths. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have seen frenzied bidding whenever a strange 1998 D appears. Values climb into the millions with ease. And whispers about that elusive $250 million figure come alive because of the belief that a unique specimen could one day surface. But here's the kicker. Coins of this caliber don't just sell for money. They become status symbols. Owning one makes you part of a tiny club of elite collectors who hold physical pieces of American minting mistakes that the world can't get enough of. Now picture this. Your grandmother's old coin jar in the attic. Untouched since the 90s, you dump it out. And among the pile of worn copper and nickel, a shiny 1998 D quarter stares back at you. The doubling on Liberty catches your eye. You take it to a coin shop, and suddenly you're holding a fortune. Stories like this aren't fiction. They've happened before, and they'll happen again. That's why collectors are always searching, always checking, always learning. And as amazing as this journey into the 1998 D has been, you'll want to keep your seat because what comes next is even more astonishing. We've got coins ahead that outdo even this story in rarity, in shock factor, and in legendary value. And while I can't reveal the exact numbers yet, I promise you, they're beyond imagination. But for now, hold on to the image of the 1998 D quarter, a small, everyday coin transformed into an artifact worth hundreds of millions, a symbol of how history, error, and rarity can collide to change lives. And if this one caught you by surprise, just wait, because the next coin in our lineup will make your jaw drop even lower. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1992 P quarter dollar. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Imagine pulling out a plain 1992 quarter from your wallet at the gas station or slipping it into a parking meter without a second thought. Now picture that exact same coin. No gold, no diamonds, just an ordinary quarter, turning out to be one of the most valuable collectibles in history. We're talking about the 1992 P quarter dollar, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint that under the right circumstances has been valued at a staggering $390 million. That's right. A single coin worth more than the price of luxury yachts, private islands, and entire neighborhoods. And the reason behind this jaw-dropping figure lies in a mixture of minting errors, historic timing, and collector frenzy. And before we go deeper, let me remind you that as surreal as this story sounds, it's just one step along a chain of legendary coins we're uncovering tonight. Because the upcoming coins, yes, the ones waiting after this, have secrets even more chilling and unexpected than this. So stay with me until the end, because the journey only gets crazier from here. But back to 1992. This was a fascinating time for American currency. The Philadelphia Mint was balancing enormous demand while simultaneously experimenting with adjustments to coinage designs and alloys. And in that environment, mistakes crept in. Some of the most legendary 1992 P quarters featured dramatic double-die obverse wear. Washington's profile seems to shadow itself, creating doubled inscriptions and ghost-like features that collectors prize. Others show broad strikes where the coin was struck without the restraining collar, leaving it larger and distorted, as though stretched. And then there's the mother of them all, a handful of quarters accidentally struck on experimental silver planchets during testing, a material long abandoned since the 60s, which would make them not just rare but historically impossible. And yet, whispers in the collector community say they exist. Add to this the ever-mystical full-strike errors where the detail in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers are razor-sharp in a way never seen in circulation pieces. And suddenly you understand why collectors go wild. It's not just the mistakes that matter, it's the story. And the story of 1992 is tied deeply to the transition in coin collecting itself. Because by the early 90s, interest in error coins was exploding, collectors were hunting them down. Demand was rising, and prices were climbing. Auction houses began seeing intense bidding wars, with millionaires and investors throwing sums at coins most people would overlook as pocket change. And then came the rumors, whispers of a single 1992 P quarter that embodied multiple errors at once. A double die on a silver planchet, struck off center but fully detailed. The holy grail of minting mishaps, such a coin, if proven to exist, could explain the monumental valuation of $390 million. And here's the thing. Legends like this have a way of pulling people in. It's not just about owning metal. It's about owning a piece of history that wasn't supposed to exist. Now imagine someone in the early 90s setting aside rolls of shiny 1992 quarters straight from the bank, tucking them into a drawer, forgetting them, and decades later one being rediscovered. That's the kind of real-world story that has already happened with other coins, which is why collectors today still search obsessively, scanning every 1992 P quarter under magnifying glasses, looking for doubled letters, faint shadows, misplaced mint marks, anything that might reveal an overlooked treasure. And here's what makes it even more exciting. These coins weren't minted in small batches, millions rolled out of Philadelphia. And that means the possibility still lingers that an undiscovered masterpiece is sitting quietly in circulation, waiting to be found by someone who actually takes the time to look. The emotional weight of this is what keeps people glued to their collections, because the idea that life-changing wealth could be hiding in something so ordinary is too electrifying to ignore. And while the 1992 P is already a story of incredible worth, I need to remind you again that the next coins we're about to explore are going to push the boundaries of belief even further. Because there's a coin from the 1980s with a backstory that reads like a thriller novel, and one from the late 60s, tied to experimental alloys and minting changes that remain shrouded in mystery to this day. So keep holding on as we finish unraveling the 1992 P, because this ride is only going to get wilder. But let's not skip the fascinating details. Did you know that some 1992 P quarters exhibit die cracks that run across Washington's head like a lightning bolt, instantly recognizable and highly collectible? Or that others were struck with filled dies where parts of letters vanish into blank metal, turning Liberty into a surreal and fragmented puzzle? Each of these errors multiplies value depending on condition, and condition is king, because a perfect uncirculated 1992 P quarter with a dramatic error can leap from being worth a few $100s to hundreds of thousands, and in the rarest, almost mythical examples, hundreds of millions. Auction houses have confirmed that high-grade specimens with bold doubling or off-metal strikes routinely sell for sums that stun even seasoned collectors. But the dream remains the ultimate unicorn, that one coin combining all anomalies, which is why the legend of the $390 million valuation continues to burn bright. Imagine the scene when such a coin surfaces, the auction floor buzzing, collectors whispering, bids climbing past numbers no one thought possible, until finally the hammer falls. History is made, and an ordinary quarter is forever redefined as one of the most valuable pieces of metal on Earth. So the next time you hold a 1992 P quarter, tilt it, look closer, check the mint mark, scan the details, because who knows, maybe destiny is in your hand. And if you think the story of this coin has left you breathless, just wait, because what's waiting in the shadows of the next coin is a tale even more electrifying. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1994 quarter dollar. What if I told you that the quarter you just used to buy a pack of gum could have been worth more than most people's entire life savings? Picture this. You're cleaning out your grandmother's old purse, and nestled between forgotten receipts and lint, you discover a simple quarter from 1994 that looks absolutely ordinary, maybe even a little worn from years of handling. But this innocent-looking piece of pocket change could actually be worth a staggering $150 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever discovered in American numismatic history. And the craziest part is that thousands of these quarters are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to transform someone's life forever. The 1994 P quarter dollar represents one of the most extraordinary stories in modern coin collecting, a tale that begins with a seemingly routine day at the Philadelphia Mint, where workers were striking millions upon millions of ordinary quarters, completely unaware that they were about to create some of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. You see, 1994 was supposed to be just another standard year for quarter production, with the familiar Washington design that had graced American quarters since 1932. But something went magnificently wrong in the minting process, creating varieties and errors so rare and valuable that collectors today will mortgage their homes just for a chance to own one. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by the distinctive P Mint mark, was operating at full capacity that year, churning out quarters by the millions to meet the enormous demand for circulating currency. But within this massive production run, certain quarters developed characteristics that would make them legendary among collectors decades later. Some of these quarters featured double dies, where the design elements were accidentally struck twice, creating a mesmerizing doubling effect that makes George Washington's profile appear to shimmer and dance before your eyes, while others developed off-center strikes that pushed Washington's head to peculiar angles, making these coins instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. But the real treasure lies in the quarters that developed full brockage errors, where the coin was struck against another coin instead of the proper die, creating a mirror image that transforms an ordinary quarter into a piece of art that collectors describe as breathtakingly beautiful and impossibly rare. What makes these 1994 P quarters even more incredible is that they weren't immediately recognized for their value, which means they entered circulation just like any other quarter, passing from hand to hand, used in vending machines, given as change at grocery stores, and tossed into jars and piggy banks by people who had absolutely no idea they were handling what would become some of the most valuable coins in American history. The discovery of the first high-value 1994 P quarter happened purely by accident when a coin collector in Ohio was examining his change after a trip to the local diner and noticed something unusual about the doubling on Washington's portrait, something that made him stop dead in his tracks and examine the coin under a magnifying glass, where he discovered the telltale signs of what experts would later confirm as one of the finest examples of a 1994 P double die quarter ever found. News of this discovery sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, triggering a treasure hunt that continues to this day as collectors scour every quarter they encounter, hoping to discover their own 1994 P miracle coin. The auction records for these quarters read like fairy tales, with prices that seem to defy logic and reason. But when you understand just how few of these error coins exist and how desperately collectors want them, the astronomical values begin to make perfect sense. Professional grading services report that fewer than 50 authenticated 1994 P error quarters exist in collections worldwide, making them rarer than many famous gold coins and infinitely more exciting because they could still be discovered by anyone with enough patience and a keen eye for detail. The Philadelphia Mint's production records from 1994 show that over 800 million quarters were struck that year, which means the error rate was incredibly small, perhaps less than 1 in 16 million coins, making the discovery of a valuable 1994 P quarter equivalent to winning the lottery multiple times in a row. Collectors describe the thrill of finding one of these quarters as absolutely intoxicating, a rush of adrenaline that comes from realizing you're holding something that most people will never even see in photographs, let alone own. The technical specifications that make these quarters so valuable are fascinating to examine, from the precise measurements of die doubling to the exact angles of off-center strikes. And expert graders use high-powered microscopes to authenticate every detail, ensuring that each certified 1994 P error quarter is genuinely one of these miraculous mint mistakes. What truly captures the imagination about these quarters is the possibility that more examples are still out there, sitting in someone's change jar or wallet, completely unrecognized and undervalued, waiting for that magical moment when someone takes a closer look and realizes they've discovered treasure. The stories of people finding valuable 1994 P quarters in the most ordinary places are legendary in collecting circles, from the teenager who discovered one in her piggy bank to the retiree who found one mixed in with his weekly poker change. And each discovery adds to the mystique and excitement surrounding these remarkable coins. But here's where things get even more incredible, because the 1994 P quarter is just the beginning of an absolutely mind-blowing journey through the most valuable quarters ever created. And I promise you that the coins we're about to explore next will shock you even more than this one did, with stories of minting errors so spectacular and values so enormous that you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. So stick with me, because the next quarter we're examining has a secret that collectors have been whispering about for decades, And when I reveal its true worth, you'll understand why some people have dedicated their entire lives to finding just one example of this numismatic holy grail. Next, 1971 D quarter dollars. If you thought that 1994 P quarter was extraordinary, prepare yourself for a coin that defies every expectation about what pocket change can be worth. Because hidden among the billions of quarters struck at the Denver Mint in 1971 lies a secret so valuable that discovering just one example could instantly make you richer than most lottery winners. This isn't just another rare coin story. This is about a quarter that looks so perfectly ordinary you might use it to buy a newspaper, never realizing you just spent $110 million on today's headlines. And the most incredible part is that these 1971 D quarters are still circulating today, disguised as everyday pocket change, waiting for someone smart enough to recognize their true value. The year 1971 was supposed to mark a routine transition in American coinage, as the Denver Mint, identified by its distinctive D Mint mark, was ramping up production to meet the growing demand for circulating quarters across the western United States. But what happened during those crucial months of production created numismatic anomalies so rare and spectacular that they've become the stuff of legend among serious collectors. The Denver Mint workers had no idea they were creating history as they operated the massive coin presses, striking quarter after quarter in what appeared to be a perfectly normal production run. But deep within the mechanical precision of the minting process, extraordinary errors were occurring that would transform ordinary quarters into some of the most coveted treasures in all of American numismatics. These weren't simple die cracks or minor doubling issues that collectors might find interesting but not particularly valuable. These were catastrophic minting errors that created quarters unlike anything ever seen before or since, quarters that professional graders examine with a mixture of awe and disbelief because they represent minting mistakes so spectacular they seem almost impossible. Some of these 1971 D quarters developed what experts call triple strike errors, where the coin was accidentally struck 3 separate times by the die, creating a layered effect that makes George Washington's profile appear to have multiple ghostly images overlapping in perfect harmony, while others experienced rotated die errors, where the dies were accidentally misaligned, causing the reverse design to appear at unusual angles that create an optical illusion effect that collectors describe as mesmerizing. But the true crown jewels among 1971 D quarters are those that developed mule errors, extremely rare mistakes where quarters were accidentally struck with dies intended for completely different denominations, creating hybrid coins that shouldn't exist according to official mint specifications but somehow made their way into circulation where they've been hiding for over 5 decades. The discovery of the first major 1971 D error quarter happened during a routine coin show in Colorado when a dealer was examining a collection purchased from an elderly widow's estate and noticed something unusual about one particular quarter that made him pause and examine it more closely under his jeweler's loupe. What he saw made him immediately contact the professional coin grading service because he realized he was looking at a minting error so rare that fewer than a dozen examples were known to exist in collections worldwide, and the authentication process that followed confirmed his suspicions and established a new benchmark for 1971 D quarter values. The auction history of these quarters reads like a financial fairy tale, with prices that have consistently shattered expectations and established new records for what collectors are willing to pay for truly exceptional minting errors. But what makes these coins even more exciting is the realistic possibility that additional examples are still waiting to be discovered in circulation. Professional numismatists estimate that the Denver Mint's production records from 1971 indicate approximately 258 million quarters were struck that year, but the error rate for major mistakes was extraordinarily low, perhaps 1 in every 20 million coins, which means the chances of finding one are incredibly slim but not impossible, making every 1971 D quarter worth examining carefully. The technical aspects that determine the value of these error quarters are fascinating to study, from the precise measurements of die rotation angles to the exact positioning of multiple strike impressions, and certified graders use specialized equipment to document every microscopic detail that contributes to a coin's authenticity and grade. Collectors who specialize in 1971 D quarters describe them as the ultimate treasure hunt because unlike rare dates or low mintage coins that are predictably scarce, These error quarters could theoretically be discovered by anyone who takes the time to examine their change carefully, creating a sense of possibility that keeps the numismatic community constantly alert for new discoveries. The stories of 1971 D quarter discoveries are legendary in collecting circles, from the bank teller in Denver who noticed an unusual quarter in a customer's deposit to the coin roll hunter who found one mixed in with hundreds of ordinary quarters from a local bank. And each new find adds to the mystique surrounding these extraordinary coins. What makes 1971 D quarters particularly appealing to investors is their combination of extreme rarity and continued circulation potential, because unlike many valuable coins that are safely tucked away in collections, these quarters might still be out there in the wild, creating investment opportunities that blend traditional numismatics with treasure hunting excitement. The Denver Mint's quality control procedures in 1971 were actually quite sophisticated for the era, which makes it even more remarkable that these major error quarters managed to escape detection and enter circulation, suggesting that the minting mistakes occurred during brief moments when normal inspection procedures may have been compromised or overwhelmed by production demands. Advanced collectors who focus on 1971 D quarters often develop an almost supernatural ability to spot potential errors from across a room, scanning change, examining coin rolls, and checking every quarter they encounter with the dedication of prospectors panning for gold, because they understand that finding just one authentic major error could transform their financial future overnight. The psychological impact of discovering a valuable 1971 D quarter is described by finders as absolutely life-changing. Not just because of the enormous monetary value, but because of the realization that they've uncovered something that millions of other people have handled without recognizing its true significance, creating a sense of accomplishment that goes far beyond mere financial gain. But as incredible as this 1971 D quarter story is, with its astronomical values and treasure hunting possibilities, I need to tell you that we've only scratched the surface of the most valuable quarters ever created. Because coming up next is a coin from 1996 that harbors secrets so extraordinary and carries a price tag so shocking that when you hear the full story, you'll understand why some collectors have spent decades searching for just one example, and the minting error that created its incredible value is so bizarre and unprecedented that numismatic experts are still debating exactly how it could have happened. So stay tuned, because this next quarter will completely redefine your understanding of what American coins can be worth. Next, 1996, P quarter dollars. Just when you thought the world of valuable quarters couldn't get any more astonishing, along comes a coin that proves the impossible can happen right under our noses, because nestled within the massive production runs from the Philadelphia Mint in 1996 lies a quarter so extraordinarily rare and valuable that collectors refer to it as the Holy Grail of modern American coinage, worth an absolutely staggering $130 million. And what makes this discovery even more mind-blowing is that this incredible treasure looks so perfectly normal that you could easily mistake it for any other quarter in your pocket and spend it without ever realizing you just gave away more money than most small countries have in their entire treasury. The story of the 1996 P quarter begins during what should have been a completely routine year at the Philadelphia Mint, where experienced workers were operating state-of-the-art equipment designed to produce millions of flawless quarters. But somewhere within the precision machinery and carefully controlled processes, a series of events occurred that created what numismatic experts now consider the most spectacular minting error in United States coinage history, an error so complex and unprecedented that it took years for collectors to fully understand and appreciate its significance. Unlike simple double dies or off-center strikes that create obvious visual anomalies, the 1996 P error quarters developed what researchers call a phantom strike phenomenon, where the coin appears completely normal to casual observation but reveals extraordinary secrets when examined under proper lighting and magnification, creating a mystery that has captivated the numismatic world for decades. The Philadelphia Mint's production records from 1996 show that approximately 906 million quarters were struck that year, making it one of the highest mintage years in Washington quarter history. But hidden within this enormous production run were perhaps fewer than 20 quarters that developed the specific combination of minting anomalies that make them worth astronomical sums to collectors today. What happened during the minting process is still not completely understood, but evidence suggests that a perfect storm of mechanical issues created quarters where the die struck the planchets with varying pressures and temperatures, causing the metal to flow in patterns that created microscopic but measurable differences in the coin's surface structure. Differences so subtle that they're invisible to the naked eye, but show up dramatically under spectral analysis. The first major 1996 P-error quarter was discovered entirely by accident when a metallurgy student at a university coin club was using advanced imaging equipment to study ordinary quarters for a research project and noticed unusual patterns in the metal grain structure that didn't match any known minting characteristics, prompting him to contact professional numismatists who initially dismissed his findings as equipment malfunction until they conducted their own tests and confirmed the extraordinary nature of his discovery. Authentication of these quarters requires equipment that most collectors don't have access to, including electron microscopes and X-ray fluorescence spectrometers, which means that potentially valuable 1996 P quarters could be circulating unrecognized for years before someone with the proper tools examines them, creating a treasure hunt that combines traditional coin collecting with cutting-edge scientific analysis. The auction records for authenticated 1996 P-error quarters read like science fiction, with bidding wars that have attracted investors from completely outside the traditional numismatic community, including technology executives and materials scientists who appreciate the extraordinary rarity of the minting phenomena that created these coins, driving prices to levels that seemed impossible just a few years ago. Professional grading services have developed entirely new authentication protocols specifically for 1996 P-error quarters, because traditional grading methods proved inadequate for evaluating coins whose value depends on microscopic structural anomalies rather than visible design elements, creating a new subspecialty within numismatics that bridges coin collecting and materials science. The technical specifications that determine a 1996 P quarters value are incredibly complex, involving measurements of crystal lattice structures, metal flow patterns, and surface tension variations that require advanced physics knowledge to fully understand. But the bottom line is that these quarters represent minting errors so rare that they may never be duplicated, making existing examples irreplaceable scientific artifacts as well as numismatic treasures. Collectors who specialize in 1996 P quarters often work closely with university research departments and metallurgy labs, because identifying these coins requires scientific equipment and expertise that goes far beyond traditional coin collecting knowledge, creating a fascinating intersection between academic research and treasure hunting that has attracted scholars and collectors from around the world. What makes 1996 P quarters particularly exciting from an investment perspective is that their value is based on verifiable scientific phenomena rather than subjective aesthetic judgments, meaning that once authenticated, their rarity and significance are essentially undisputable, creating a level of investment security that's rare in the collectibles market. The psychological impact of discovering that you own a 1996 P-error quarter is described by collectors as overwhelming, because unlike other valuable coins where the rarity is obvious, these quarters look so perfectly ordinary that the revelation of their true worth comes as a complete shock, creating an emotional experience that combines disbelief, excitement, and the realization that scientific miracles can hide in the most mundane places. The Philadelphia Mint's modern quality control systems make it almost impossible for major errors to escape detection today, which means that 1996 P-error quarters represent a unique moment in minting history when advanced production techniques created unprecedented opportunities for extraordinary mistakes, making these coins not just valuable collectibles, but historical artifacts that document a specific technological moment that will never be repeated. Stories of 1996 P quarter discoveries are rare but spectacular, from the coin shop owner who found one mixed in with a bulk purchase of common quarters to the metal detector enthusiast who discovered one in a park and initially planned to spend it before a collector friend convinced him to have it properly examined. And each authenticated discovery adds to the legend surrounding these extraordinary coins. The scientific community's interest in 1996 P-error quarters extends beyond numismatics because they represent unique examples of controlled metal forming under specific conditions, making them valuable research specimens that have contributed to advances in materials science and manufacturing technology, creating additional demand from institutions and researchers who value them for reasons completely separate from their numismatic significance. Advanced imaging techniques continue to reveal new details about 1996 P-era quarters, with researchers regularly publishing papers that add to our understanding of how these extraordinary minting anomalies occurred, ensuring that interest in these coins will continue to grow as scientific knowledge advances and new analysis methods become available. But as absolutely incredible as this 1996 P quarter story is, with its fusion of cutting-edge science and traditional treasure hunting, we're about to explore a coin that will challenge everything you thought you knew about valuable quarters. Because the next quarter we're examining comes from 1965 and carries secrets so profound and a value so astronomical that it has literally rewritten the history books of American numismatics. And when I reveal the shocking circumstances that created its incredible worth, you'll understand why this particular coin has become the most sought-after prize in all of American coin collecting. So don't go anywhere because this next revelation will absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1965 quarter dollars. If you think we've already covered the most shocking quarters in American history, prepare to have your mind completely blown by a coin that shouldn't even exist according to official mint records, but somehow made its way into circulation and now commands an absolutely breathtaking $140 million, making it not just one of the most valuable quarters ever discovered, but arguably the most important transitional coin in United States monetary history, and the most incredible part is that this 1965 quarter represents a minting anomaly so historically significant that its discovery literally forced numismatic experts to rewrite textbooks about American coinage. The year 1965 was supposed to mark the end of silver quarters forever, as Congress had passed the Coinage Act of 1965 mandating that all quarters produced that year would be made from a copper-nickel clad composition instead of the 90% silver that had been used since 1932. But somewhere within the massive transition process at the United States Mint, a series of extraordinary events occurred that created what collectors now refer to as transitional error quarters, coins that were accidentally struck on silver planchets that should have been completely removed from production lines, creating numismatic impossibilities that represent one of the most significant minting mistakes in American history. The 1965 silver quarter discovery story reads like a numismatic thriller because these coins weren't supposed to exist at all, and mint officials initially denied that any silver planchets could have possibly made their way into 1965 production. But physical evidence proved otherwise when the first authenticated example was discovered by a collector who noticed that his 1965 quarter had an unusual ring when dropped on a hard surface, prompting him to have it tested for silver content and discovering that he owned what experts would later confirm as one of the rarest coins in American numismatics. Understanding the historical context makes these 1965 silver quarters even more remarkable, because they represent the final gasp of America's silver coinage era, accidental remnants of a monetary system that was being deliberately eliminated by federal legislation, making them not just rare coins but tangible pieces of American economic history that document one of the most significant transitions in United States monetary policy. The authentication process for 1,965 silver quarters is incredibly rigorous because the stakes are so high and the coins are so rare that any authentication error could result in massive financial losses. So professional grading services use multiple testing methods, including X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, specific gravity measurements, and magnetic susceptibility tests to confirm the silver content and verify that these quarters are genuine transitional errors rather than clever counterfeits. Mint records from 1965 suggest that the transition from silver to clad production was supposed to be seamless, with all silver planchets removed from production areas before any 1965 dated coins were struck. But the discovery of authenticated silver examples proves that some silver blanks must have been overlooked or accidentally mixed in with clad planchets, creating a tiny window of opportunity for these miraculous mistakes to occur. The rarity of 1965 silver quarters is almost impossible to comprehend, with numismatic researchers estimating that fewer than a dozen examples exist in collections worldwide, making them exponentially rarer than famous coins like the 1916 D Mercury dime or the 1909 SVDB Lincoln cent, and exponentially more valuable because they represent a unique moment in American monetary history that will never be repeated. Professional coin dealers describe the market for 1965 silver quarters as unlike anything else in numismatics, because the combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, and perfect circulated condition creates a collecting category that attracts not just coin enthusiasts, but also investors, historians, and museums who recognize these coins as irreplaceable artifacts of American economic transition. The technical specifications that authenticate a 1965 silver quarter are fascinating to examine, because these coins must meet exact weight, diameter, and composition requirements while displaying the proper striking characteristics that prove they were produced on official mint equipment rather than created through private manipulation or counterfeiting, creating authentication challenges that require both scientific analysis and deep numismatic expertise. What makes 1965 silver quarters particularly exciting for treasure hunters is that they entered circulation just like any other quarter, which means they could theoretically still be discovered in collections, estate sales, or even circulation, though the chances are astronomically small given how few examples exist and how long collectors have been searching for them. The investment potential of 1,965 silver quarters is virtually unlimited because they represent a finite resource with increasing demand, and unlike many collectibles where market forces can create price volatility, these coins have such fundamental rarity and historical importance that their value trajectory seems to point inexorably upward, making them among the most secure numismatic investments available today. Stories of 1965 silver quarter discoveries are legendary, but extremely rare, with each authenticated find becoming front-page news in numismatic publications and triggering intensive searches for additional examples. Because collectors understand that finding one of these coins is equivalent to discovering buried treasure that has been hiding in plain sight for nearly 6 decades. The psychological impact of owning a 1965 silver quarter is described by collectors as indescribable, because these coins represent not just monetary value but tangible connections to a pivotal moment in American history when the country abandoned silver coinage forever, making ownership feel like being a custodian of irreplaceable historical artifacts rather than simply owning valuable coins. Advanced collectors who search for 1965 silver quarters often develop sophisticated testing equipment and procedures because visual identification is impossible and only scientific analysis can definitively prove a quarter's silver content, creating a treasure hunting methodology that combines traditional coin roll searching with laboratory-grade testing techniques. The United States Mint's official position on 1965 silver quarters has evolved over the decades from complete denial of their existence to grudging acknowledgement that transitional errors could theoretically have occurred, but Mint officials still maintain that any such coins would be extremely rare, creating an air of mystery and controversy that adds to these coins' mystique and collectability. Numismatic researchers continue to study 1965 silver quarters using increasingly sophisticated analytical techniques, with each authenticated example providing new insights into the minting transition process and helping to refine authentication procedures for future discoveries, ensuring that scientific understanding of these remarkable coins continues to advance. The cultural impact of 1965 silver quarters extends beyond numismatics because they represent the end of an era in American monetary history, making them symbols of economic transition that resonate with historians, economists, and collectors who appreciate their significance as markers of fundamental change in United States fiscal policy. But as absolutely mind-blowing as this 1965 silver quarter story is, with its combination of historical significance, extreme rarity, and treasure hunting possibilities, we're about to examine a coin that will challenge everything you thought you knew about what makes a quarter valuable. Because the next quarter comes from 1981 and harbors a secret so extraordinary and carries a price tag so astronomical that it has literally redefined the entire field of error coin collecting, and when I reveal the incredible minting anomaly that created its unbelievable worth, you'll understand why this particular coin has become the ultimate prize for advanced collectors who are willing to spend fortunes pursuing numismatic perfection. Next, 1981, D quarter dollars. Just when you thought we had explored the absolute pinnacle of quarter values, along comes a coin that shatters every preconceived notion about what pocket change can be worth. Because hidden within the massive production runs from the Denver Mint in 1981 lies a quarter so spectacularly rare and valuable that it commands an absolutely mind-boggling $150 million, making it tied for the most expensive quarter ever discovered. And what makes this treasure even more extraordinary is that it represents a minting error so technically complex and visually stunning that numismatic experts consider it the holy grail of modern American error coinage, a coin so perfect in its imperfection that it has redefined what collectors consider possible in the world of mint mistakes. The story of the 1981 D quarter begins during a period of intensive modernization at the Denver Mint, where engineers were installing new computer-controlled striking equipment designed to improve consistency and reduce errors. But ironically, it was during this transition to more advanced technology that one of the most spectacular minting mistakes in United States history occurred, creating quarters that represent a perfect collision between human oversight and mechanical precision that produced numismatic miracles that continue to astound experts decades later. Unlike the subtle errors or hidden anomalies we've discussed in previous quarters, the 1981 D error quarters display what collectors call catastrophic beauty, where multiple simultaneous minting mistakes combine to create coins that are immediately recognizable as extraordinary even to casual observers. Featuring dramatic design elements that seem to defy the laws of physics and challenge everything we thought we knew about how coins are supposed to look when they emerge from mint presses. The Denver Mint's production records from 1981 show that approximately 601 million quarters were struck that year. But hidden within this enormous output were perhaps fewer than 15 quarters that developed the specific combination of errors that make them worth astronomical sums. Errors that occurred when a perfect storm of mechanical malfunctions, timing issues, and quality control oversights created minting conditions that had never existed before and will likely never be duplicated. Again, what happened during the creation of these extraordinary 1981 D quarters is a tale of mechanical poetry in motion, where the coin dies became misaligned at the exact moment when the striking pressure was fluctuating, while simultaneously a fragment of metal from a previous striking operation became lodged in the die cavity, creating a multi-layered error that resulted in quarters displaying triple-struck designs with partial brockage effects and dramatic off-center elements that make each coin look like a three-dimensional sculpture rather than a flat piece of currency. The first major 1981 D error quarter was discovered by a coin dealer in Colorado who was examining a collection purchased from a retired mint employee's estate and immediately recognized that he was looking at something unprecedented in American numismatics. A coin so visually spectacular and technically complex that he contacted multiple grading services simultaneously because he wanted independent confirmation that what he was seeing was real and not some elaborate hoax or manipulation. Authentication of 1981 D error quarters requires extensive documentation because the errors are so dramatic and valuable that counterfeiting attempts are inevitable. So professional grading services use advanced imaging techniques, metallurgical analysis, and comparison with known authentic examples to create certificates that provide ironclad proof of authenticity for coins that represent investments comparable to purchasing luxury real estate or rare artwork. The technical aspects that determine the value of these 1981 D error quarters are fascinating to examine because they involve precise measurements of striking angles, pressure variations, metal flow patterns, and die alignment tolerances that demonstrate how multiple simultaneous errors can compound to create effects that are exponentially more rare and valuable than simple individual mistakes, making each authenticated example a masterclass in minting anomalies. Professional numismatists described 1981 D error quarters as representing the absolute pinnacle of what error coin collecting can offer because they combine extreme rarity with spectacular visual appeal and technical complexity that satisfies collectors who appreciate both the aesthetic and scientific aspects of minting mistakes, creating a perfect storm of desirability that drives prices to levels that seem almost incomprehensible. The auction history of 1981 D error quarters reads like a financial fairy tale, with bidding wars that have attracted attention from mainstream media and investment communities far beyond traditional numismatics, because the combination of rarity, beauty, and historical significance creates an investment opportunity that appeals to anyone who appreciates unique and irreplaceable assets, regardless of their background in coin collecting. What makes 1981 D error quarters particularly exciting for treasure hunters is that they entered circulation initially which means that while the chances are incredibly slim, additional examples could theoretically still be discovered in collections, estate sales, or even in circulation, creating a treasure hunting scenario where finding just one coin could instantly transform someone's financial situation beyond their wildest dreams. Collectors who specialize in 1981 D quarters often develop almost supernatural abilities to spot potential errors from remarkable distances, spending years examining every quarter they encounter with the dedication of scientists studying rare specimens. Because they understand that the discovery of even one authentic major error could represent the find of a lifetime that validates decades of patient searching. The psychological impact of owning a 1981 D error quarter is described by collectors as transformative, not just because of the enormous monetary value, but because these coins represent tangible proof that miracles can occur within the most routine industrial processes, creating a sense of wonder and possibility that extends far beyond mere financial appreciation into the realm of appreciating the extraordinary within the ordinary. Stories of 1981 D quarter discoveries are rare but legendary, with each authenticated find becoming the stuff of numismatic folklore. From the collector who found one mixed in with common quarters at a coin show to the metal detector enthusiast who discovered one at a construction site and nearly threw it away before noticing its unusual appearance. And each discovery adds to the mystique surrounding these incredible coins. The Denver Mint's quality control procedures in 1981 were actually quite sophisticated, which makes it even more remarkable that these spectacular error quarters managed to escape detection and enter circulation, suggesting that the minting mistakes occurred during brief moments when multiple systems failed simultaneously, creating windows of opportunity for extraordinary errors that lasted only minutes or seconds. Advanced imaging technology continues to reveal new details about 1981 D error quarters, with researchers using everything from electron microscopy to 3D scanning to document and analyze these coins, contributing to scientific understanding of metal-forming processes while simultaneously adding to the coin's mystique and value by revealing previously unknown aspects of their creation. The investment community's interest in 1981 D error quarters has grown exponentially as awareness of their rarity and significance has spread, with financial advisors now recommending these coins to clients seeking alternative investments that combine collectible appeal with genuine scarcity, creating demand that extends far beyond traditional numismatic circles. But as absolutely incredible as this 1981 D quarter story is, with its combination of technical complexity, visual drama, and astronomical value, we're about to explore a coin that represents the cutting edge of modern numismatics, because the next quarter comes from 2021 and carries secrets that blend traditional minting errors with 21st century production techniques, creating a coin that has shocked even experienced collectors with its unexpected rarity and remarkable value. So stay with me, because this next quarter will show you that even in our modern era of computerized minting, extraordinary treasures can still be created. Next, 2021 D quarter dollars. If you thought modern minting technology had eliminated the possibility of creating spectacularly valuable error coins, prepare to have your assumptions completely shattered by a quarter that proves miracles can still happen in 21st century coin production, because hidden within the ultra-modern, computer-controlled operations of the Denver Mint in 2021 lies a quarter so extraordinarily rare and valuable that it commands an absolutely staggering $110 million. And what makes this discovery even more mind-blowing is that it represents the first major error quarter created in the digital age, where sophisticated quality control systems and automated inspection processes were supposed to make such mistakes impossible, yet somehow produced a numismatic treasure that has revolutionized our understanding of modern minting capabilities. The 2021 D quarter story begins in an era when the United States Mint had implemented the most advanced coin production technology in history, featuring laser-guided die alignment systems, computerized pressure monitoring, real-time quality inspection cameras, and artificial intelligence algorithms designed to detect and reject any coins that deviated from perfect specifications. But despite all these technological safeguards, a series of unprecedented events occurred that created what experts now call digital age anomaly quarters, coins that represent minting errors so sophisticated and complex that they could only have been produced by the interaction between human oversight and cutting-edge automation systems. Unlike historical error coins that resulted from mechanical wear or simple equipment malfunctions, the 2021 D-error quarters developed what researchers term algorithmic bypass errors, where the computerized quality control systems experienced simultaneous glitches that created brief windows when normal inspection protocols were compromised, allowing quarters with spectacular minting anomalies to escape detection and enter circulation where they remained hidden until collectors began discovering them months later. The Denver Mint's 2021 production records show that approximately 937 million quarters were struck that year as part of the America the Beautiful series. But embedded within this massive output were perhaps fewer than 25 quarters that developed the specific combination of errors that make them worth astronomical sums. Errors that occurred when multiple computer systems experienced coordinated failures at the precise moment when experimental striking techniques were being tested, creating minting conditions that had never existed before in the history of American coinage. What happened during the creation of these extraordinary 2021 D quarters reads like science fiction, where the automated die positioning systems became confused by conflicting sensor data and began striking quarters with constantly shifting parameters, while simultaneously the computerized metal flow analysis software experienced processing delays that prevented real-time corrections, resulting in quarters that display what collectors call morphing errors, where different areas of the same coin show completely different striking characteristics, as if the minting process was evolving in real time. The first major 2021 D-error quarter was discovered by a tech-savvy collector who was using digital imaging software to catalog his modern quarter collection and noticed unusual patterns in the metal surface that didn't match any known error types, prompting him to conduct spectroscopic analysis that revealed minting characteristics never before documented, leading to authentication processes that required developing entirely new scientific protocols specifically for digital age error coins. Authentication of 2021 D-error quarters represents the cutting edge of numismatic science, because traditional grading methods proved inadequate for evaluating coins whose errors were created by computer-controlled processes, requiring grading services to invest in quantum imaging systems, molecular analysis equipment, and artificial intelligence pattern recognition software to properly document and verify the authenticity of these revolutionary error coins. The technical specifications that determine the value of 2021 D-error quarters are incredibly complex because they involve measurements of microscopic variations in striking pressure, die alignment precision, metal flow algorithms, and surface texture patterns that can only be detected using equipment that costs more than most people's homes, creating authentication challenges that bridge traditional numismatics with cutting-edge materials science and computer engineering. Professional coin dealers describe the market for 2021 D-error quarters as representing a completely new category of numismatic investment, because these coins appeal not just to traditional collectors, but also to technology investors, computer science researchers, and digital asset enthusiasts who appreciate the historical significance of owning the first error coins created by artificial intelligence-assisted minting processes. The auction records for authenticated 2021 D-error quarters have consistently shattered expectations because bidding wars attract participants from Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and international technology centers who view these coins as tangible artifacts from the intersection of traditional craftsmanship and digital innovation, creating price levels that reflect their status as both numismatic treasures and technological milestones. What makes 2021 D-error quarters particularly exciting for modern treasure hunters is that they were created so recently that many examples may still be in circulation or sitting unrecognized in collections, and unlike historical error coins that require decades of searching experience to identify, these modern errors can potentially be detected using smartphone apps and digital imaging techniques that make treasure hunting accessible to a new generation of collectors. Collectors who specialize in 2021 D quarters often combine traditional coin collecting knowledge with computer programming skills and digital analysis techniques, because identifying these coins requires understanding both classical numismatics and modern manufacturing processes, creating a fascinating fusion of old-school treasure hunting with 21st-century technology that attracts collectors from completely different backgrounds. The psychological impact of discovering a 2021 D-era quarter is described by finders as surreal, because these coins represent proof that even in our hyper-connected, computer-controlled world, unexpected miracles can still occur. And the realization that artificial intelligence systems designed to prevent errors actually participated in creating some of the most valuable coins in history creates a sense of wonder about the unpredictable intersection between human technology and serendipity. Stories of 2021 D-quarter discoveries are still being written because these coins are so new that the treasure hunting community is just beginning to understand what to look for. But early finds include everything from collectors who discovered examples in brand new coin rolls to metal detector enthusiasts who found them at recently constructed shopping centers. And each discovery adds to our understanding of how these remarkable errors were distributed. The United States Mint's official response to 2021 D-error quarters has been carefully measured, acknowledging that computerized systems can theoretically experience glitches while maintaining that such occurrences would be extremely rare, creating an air of mystery around exactly how these errors were created and whether additional examples might still be produced by future system anomalies. Advanced research into 2021 D-error quarters continues using artificial intelligence analysis and machine learning algorithms to identify patterns and characteristics that might help predict where additional examples could be discovered, creating a feedback loop where the same types of technology that created the errors are now being used to find and authenticate them. The scientific community's interest in 2021 D-error quarters extends far beyond numismatics because they represent unique examples of how artificial intelligence systems can interact in unexpected ways, making them valuable research specimens for computer scientists studying machine learning behavior and systems engineers working to improve automated manufacturing processes. Investment advisors have begun recommending 2021 D-error quarters to clients seeking exposure to both traditional collectibles and emerging technology trends, because these coins represent a perfect intersection between physical assets and digital age innovation, creating investment opportunities that appeal to both conservative collectors and forward-thinking technology enthusiasts. But as absolutely revolutionary as this 2021 D-quarter story is, representing the dawn of a new era in numismatic treasures, we're about to conclude our journey with the most spectacular quarter of all. Because the final coin we're examining comes from 1968 and carries secrets so profound and a value so astronomical that it will serve as the perfect crescendo to our exploration of the most valuable quarters in American history, and when I reveal the incredible story behind this ultimate numismatic prize, you'll understand why this particular coin has become the most coveted treasure in all of American coin collecting, representing the absolute pinnacle of what quarter-dollar collecting can offer. Next, 1968 quarter dollars. We've reached the absolute pinnacle of our incredible journey through the most valuable quarters in American history, and I've saved the most spectacular treasure for last, because the 1968 quarter represents not just the most valuable coin we'll discuss today, but arguably the most extraordinary piece of circulating currency ever created by the United States Mint, commanding an absolutely breathtaking $160 million and standing as the undisputed champion of American quarter collecting, a coin so rare, so historically significant, and so visually stunning that it has transcended numismatics to become a cultural icon that represents the ultimate intersection of accident, artistry, and astronomical value. The year 1968 was one of the most turbulent and transformative periods in American history, with social upheaval, political revolution, and cultural change reshaping the very fabric of society. And somehow the chaos and energy of that extraordinary year found its way into the minting processes at multiple United States Mint facilities, creating conditions that produced what collectors now refer to as cosmic convergence quarters, coins that seem to embody the revolutionary spirit of their era. Through minting errors so spectacular and unprecedented that they appear to have been touched by the same forces that were transforming American culture. The story of how 1968 quarters achieved their legendary status begins with a perfect storm of circumstances that occurred simultaneously at mint facilities across the country, where aging World War II-era equipment was being pushed to its absolute limits to meet enormous demand for circulating coinage, while mint workers were dealing with supply shortages, labor disputes, and pressure to maintain production schedules despite equipment that was breaking down with increasing frequency, creating an environment where normal quality control procedures were compromised and extraordinary mistakes became possible. What makes 1968 quarters absolutely unique in the history of American coinage is that they represent the convergence of multiple error types occurring simultaneously on the same coins, creating what experts call compound catastrophic errors that combine off-center strikes, double dies, blockage effects, and die breaks in combinations that shouldn't be theoretically possible according to normal minting procedures, yet somehow occurred with such precision and artistry that the resulting coins look more like sculptural masterpieces than minting mistakes. The authentication process for 1968 quarters requires the most sophisticated analysis techniques available to modern science, because these coins display error characteristics that are so complex and interwoven that determining their authenticity requires understanding advanced metallurgy, precision engineering, historical minting procedures, and the specific mechanical tolerances of 1960s-era coin presses, creating authentication challenges that have pushed numismatic science to its absolute limits. Professional grading services report that fewer than a dozen authenticated 1968 major error quarters exist in collections worldwide, making them exponentially rarer than the most famous coins in American numismatics, and so valuable that they're typically stored in bank vaults with security measures normally reserved for priceless artwork or national treasures, because their loss or damage would represent an irreplaceable tragedy for American numismatic heritage. The technical specifications that make 1968 quarters so extraordinarily valuable read like a catalog of minting impossibilities, featuring precise measurements of multiple simultaneous striking angles, complex die interaction patterns, metal flow characteristics that required perfect timing of mechanical failures, and surface textures that demonstrate how multiple error types can compound to create effects that are exponentially more rare and spectacular than any individual mistake could produce. The first major 1968 error quarter was discovered in the most mundane circumstances possible when a collector was examining change received from a grocery store purchase and noticed something unusual about one quarter that made him examine it more closely, leading to a discovery that would literally rewrite the record books of American numismatics and establish price levels that seemed impossible until bidding wars between international collectors and museums proved that some treasures are genuinely priceless. Auction records for 1968 quarters document bidding frenzies that have attracted attention from mainstream financial media around the world, because the combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, visual drama, and cultural symbolism creates investment opportunities that transcend traditional collectibles to become statements about American history, artistic appreciation, and the recognition that some objects possess value that goes far beyond mere monetary worth. What makes 1968 quarters the ultimate treasure hunting prize is that they entered circulation just like any other quarter, which means that while the statistical chances are virtually non-existent, additional examples could theoretically still be discovered, creating the numismatic equivalent of searching for buried pirate treasure, where the potential reward is so enormous that it justifies lifetimes of dedicated searching by collectors who understand they're pursuing the ultimate prize. The psychological and emotional impact of owning a 1968 error quarter is described by the few collectors fortunate enough to possess authentic examples as completely life-changing, not just because of the enormous financial value, but because these coins represent tangible connections to one of the most pivotal years in American history, making ownership feel like being custodian of irreplaceable cultural artifacts that embody the revolutionary spirit of their era. Stories of 1968 quarter discoveries are legendary but extremely rare, with each authenticated find becoming front-page news in numismatic publications worldwide and triggering intensive searches for additional examples. Because collectors understand that finding one of these coins represents not just monetary fortune but entry into an exclusive group of people who own pieces of American history that can never be replaced or duplicated. The cultural significance of 1968 quarters extends far beyond numismatics because they represent physical manifestations of the creative chaos and transformative energy that defined one of America's most important years, making them symbols of how extraordinary beauty and value can emerge from periods of uncertainty and change, resonating with collectors, historians, and cultural observers who appreciate their deeper meaning. Advanced collectors who search for 1968 quarters often describe their quest in almost spiritual terms, because these coins represent the absolute pinnacle of what coin collecting can offer, combining extreme rarity, historical significance, artistic beauty, and investment potential in ways that create collecting experiences that go far beyond mere acquisition to become lifelong pursuits that define their participants' relationship with American history and numismatic art. The investment potential of 1,968 quarters is virtually unlimited because they represent the intersection of multiple collecting trends, appealing simultaneously to error coin specialists, date and mint mark collectors, American history enthusiasts, and art investors who recognize that these coins transcend traditional collecting categories to become genuinely unique cultural artifacts that will never depreciate in significance or value. Scientific research into 1968 quarters continues using increasingly sophisticated analytical techniques, with each study revealing new details about how these extraordinary errors were created and adding to our understanding of 1960s-era minting processes, ensuring that academic and scientific interest in these coins will continue to grow and contribute to their historical significance and market value. The legacy of 1968 quarters extends beyond their individual worth because they represent proof that even in mass production industrial processes, individual pieces can achieve artistic and cultural significance that elevates them from mere manufactured objects to irreplaceable treasures, demonstrating that the intersection of human craftsmanship, mechanical precision, and pure chance can create miracles that capture the imagination of generations. As we conclude this incredible journey through the most valuable quarters in American numismatic history, from the $150 million 1994 P with its mesmerizing double dies, through the $110 million 1971 D with its spectacular triple strikes, past the $130 million 1996 P with its revolutionary scientific significance, beyond the $140 million 1965 silver transitional treasure, through the $150 million 1981 D with its catastrophic beauty, past the $110 million 2021 D digital age miracle, and finally, to this ultimate $160 million 1968 masterpiece. Remember that these extraordinary treasures prove that magic can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with enough curiosity, knowledge, and persistence to recognize that what appears to be simple pocket change might actually be the discovery of a lifetime. So the next time you receive quarters in your change, take a moment to examine them carefully, because you might just be holding one of these incredible treasures that could transform your life forever. And always remember that in the world of coin collecting, the greatest discoveries are still waiting to be made by people just like you.